You might think that your body is just filled with toxins because of all this bad stuff going around and just always eating bad. So you need a detox. And what you'll do is you might just turn to smoothies, you might turn to supplements. But the bottom line is you're really drinking all this detox smoothie stuff and you're sticking to that sort of a diet. But what if I'm here to tell you that that actually is toxic? In fact, it's so toxic, it's almost no different than chemotherapy. Yes, I know that sounds absolutely insane. Yep, that's right. The very detox that you're doing is actually doing the exact opposite of what you want it to do. And this is very strange. And because of this, we're going to have to dive into the detox paradox. Now, as you might already know, plants are very often considered superfoods, and obviously they are detox superfoods. However, there's a little bit of a catch because turns out they are actually killing themselves at a very rapid rate, which is a little bit strange. Actually, this self-destructive mechanism is a little bit advantageous for it. In fact, it's a little bit weird. And it has to do with the fact that they are warding off, or attempting to anyways, trying to ward off rodents and trying to ward off any sort of insects that are eating them. Now, even though many people do eat these plants for their so-called benefits, they actually inflict tons and tons of damage in the process. And this is exactly what the problem is with the detox paradox. So in this video, I'm going to be uncovering the detox paradox, as well as some of the phytotoxins, the inflammatory markers that are produced, and not only that, the chemical defenses that plants use themselves. Now, actually, we won't be able to cover every single phytotoxin because if we did, this video would go for hours and hours and hours. And we're going to make it a little bit shorter and try to consolidate it a bit. Before we get into phytotoxins, we have to understand a little bit about inflammation itself. Now, there's actually a video I've already made on inflammation, and if you're interested, you can go check out more details on that video on inflammation. Now, there's a couple reasons why inflammation happens, and I'm not going to cover all of them, but just to name a few, one of them could be eliminating pathogens. It could even be removing damaged cells, recruiting immune cells. It could be tissue remodeling, which is otherwise known as tissue repair sometimes. There are plenty and plenty of things that inflammation is important for, but those plant toxins actually interfere and cause those responses, especially when we don't want them. And this is kind of a big deal because that detox that you're giving yourself is actually aging you quicker, making your skin worse, and not only that, it might even very well be contributing to your acne or even your stomach bloating. There are plenty and plenty of problems that these phytotoxins can cause. First, we're going to be covering two phytotoxins, which are, by the way, pretty much the worst of the worst. These are the ones that are quite literally used for poisons. So you probably won't encounter these in your daily life. So luckily, you won't have to worry about these. But just to show you a little bit on just how bad it is, the two phytotoxins that I'm talking about are ricin and abrin, and they cause necrosis, which is a really, really bad thing. Direct necrosis. Now, in the process of doing all this and them causing necrosis, your immune system absolutely freaks out and it starts panicking. And because all of this necrosis is happening, basically that cell death that isn't regulated, your cells freak out because what they see are caspases. And caspases are another way of saying your body looking outside and seeing a dead body. Now, that is absolutely terrifying, and if you did that in your house and you just saw a dead body there, that would probably send off a panic signal. That is the exact same thing that they are doing. They are sending off a huge panic signal because they just realized something died and that shouldn't be happening. And this is exactly what viruses do, for that matter. It's almost the exact same mechanism. Now, instead of going through necrosis, which are the little bit of overkill ones done by ricin and abrin, which are poisons, there are also the milder versions of this, which actually, by the way, almost do the exact same thing. In fact, they do something called pyroptosis. Now, pyroptosis is inflicted by aflatoxins and it's inflicted by lectins. Now, if you don't know aflatoxins and lectins, they are actually very, very common. In fact, there is this giant list if you're really interested in seeing all of the plants with phytotoxins and lectins as it constantly scrolls down. Yeah, it's pretty long. It's actually longer than that. In fact, there's way more. So once again, if you're really interested in giving yourself pyroptosis, which is another sort of version of necrosis, not good for your cells, then binge on those because yeah, they'll do that. And remember, once again, you are stimulating your immune system and making your immune system panic when you do this. And your immune system doesn't like that at all. Now, this could actually quite literally contribute to maybe your acne. It could even contribute to your stomach pain if you have some sort of ulcerative colitis or anything along those lines. Not necessarily too good. I would probably avoid it. Now, the third one is ferroptosis. Yes, and ferroptosis is another way of saying iron-dependent cell death. And that is basically, once again, not what you want to be giving yourself, because that is making your cells go kind of crazy, and it's kind of making them panic. Now, how exactly are plants doing this? Well, they actually do this because, one, they have the phytotoxins to do so, and in turn, they will make your cell panic, die, and then suddenly your immune system comes, and then your immune system starts panicking, and yeah, that's not healthy because you're stimulating an inflammatory response, and that is no different than chemotherapy. Now, which three am I talking about? Yes, that's right. There are actually three. There's actually way more, but there are three drugs in particular, the chemotherapy drugs I'm talking about, that do originate from plants, and there's a pretty good chance that you're eating some of them. Now, just to name a few, some of them could be things like solanine, curcumin, or artemisinin. Now, yes, solanine is actually very common. Curcumin is found in turmeric. And this, once again, if you're really interested in the whole giant list, you can see it's pretty long. Yeah, there's a lot more. Just to name a few: potatoes, eggplants. Yeah, not good. So I would avoid that one as well, because turns out it's like chemotherapy, and you probably don't want to give yourself chemotherapy because you probably already know chemotherapy is for very sick people. Now, the fourth thing that phytotoxins can do is actually called cellular senescence. Now, cellular senescence is basically another way of saying your body's cells suddenly just stop dividing, and lo and behold, they just stay stagnant and do nothing. And they just eat resources. Not what you want for your cells. You want your cells being productive. You don't want slackers. Now, this is a problem because your cells will actually end up becoming slackers when you eat certain foods. Once again, and which ones am I talking about on this one? Well, there are plenty of them, and I really do mean plenty of them, but just to name a few, some of them could be curcumin, capsaicin, and quercetin will actually cause cellular senescence. Yes. Now, you probably have heard of capsaicin. Yes, capsaicin is the one that you're thinking of. That's spicy food. Yes, so once again, spicy food will actually induce this response of cellular senescence. Now, another one could actually be curcumin. Once again, curcumin, we already know, that's in turmeric. And finally, quercetin. Now, quercetin is found in apples, onions, and berries, just to name a few, although there is way more. As you can see, there's just a giant list of them. So yeah, that's just a list of 30. By the way, there's probably way more than that. But every single plant, regardless of which one that you try to choose, they all have the exact same response one way or another. The only difference is they cause it in a different method. Now, the fifth one is endoplasmic reticulum stress, otherwise known as ER stress. Yes, your endoplasmic reticulum, the thing that's basically doing all that protein folding, can end up getting a little bit stressed out and kind of annoyed. Now, in the process of doing so, it freaks out and it goes, uh-oh. And which phytotoxin makes it go, uh-oh? That's right, it's solanine once again. Solanine, remember that one? That one was in tomatoes and potatoes, right? Yes, that's right. And once again, the giant list, not healthy. But once again, this is why you want to be avoiding solanine and all these other chemotherapy drugs and pretty much plants as a whole, because every single one of them induces this response. And unless you're interested in giving yourself inflammation and causing inflammatory markers for no reason, which by the way is a very big contributor to your acne, it could be a contributor to your eczema, it could be a contributor to you name it. This does not help it, I can guarantee you. The sixth one is mitochondrial dysfunction. It doesn't just stop there, because we can't possibly keep going, right? No, they really cause tons of these problems. Now, mitochondrial dysfunction is another way of saying your body usually would make energy. Now, suddenly, it's not able to make energy that well. And why is that? Because your mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, is actually malfunctioning. Yes. And once again, we have more phytotoxins that do this, like aflatoxins, which, by the way, I wouldn't recommend. As you can see, there's a giant list once again. And we have, yes, that's right, he's here to make a return, solanine. Giant list again. So once again, I would avoid these. These are not healthy, and if you really want to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, which is otherwise, by the way, another way of saying induce a little bit of a cancerous response. Yes, because that's exactly what causes cancer, mitochondrial dysfunction. We already know that a dysfunctional mitochondria is actually the cause of cancer. Yeah, so why would you do that? That's a very good question. Let's move on to our next one. Now, our seventh one are inflammasomes. Now, inflammasomes activate when stress signals pretty much are detected, and they promote inflammation, and they're basically your body's way of saying, whoa, there's something there. That's not good. Now, yes, we have more of those that are being stimulated by phytotoxins. Once again, way longer list than the ones that I'm going to give, but just to name a few, some of them could be things like lectins and oxalates. Now, lectins, you probably actually eat them, in fact. Yes, that's right. They're beans. Yeah, those beans are actually really bad. You know the gas that you're getting from those beans? That's not just gas, by the way. They're literally like kind of tearing your stomach open. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. Yeah, they're literally tearing your stomach open because they're basically opening the tight junctions in your stomach. They're called tight junctions for a reason. They're not supposed to be loose. So once again, I would avoid those. If you have autoimmune problems, gut autoimmune problems especially, you are going to get blasted by these. And I mean not good. I'm a personal example, living example. Don't do this. I really mean it. It's not healthy. Now, these oxalates are a little bit more of a problem than that, actually. It's the fact that they will literally steal your minerals and a whole lot more. Now, if you're interested in all that, then I recommend you check out my Science Behind Carnivore playlist because it will explain all of this in a whole lot more detail, especially the problems that you're getting. And not only will it explain the problems that you're getting, it will also explain how to solve them. And by the way, I make no profit off of this in terms of selling you the cure. I'm just here to tell you the answers, and if you choose to go down that path, it is up to you. But I am giving you the science behind it, and I am giving you the biochemistry of how it all works, and basically how to solve any sort of health problem that you could possibly think of. Now, before we dive into polyunsaturated fat content and why that's actually very, very unhealthy, by the way, those are those things saying, hey, LDL is very unhealthy and you need to lower your LDL. Now, let's increase the polyunsaturated fat content. Like, yeah, that's not what you want to do. But before we dive into that, we're going to dive into the Rubisco enzyme and understand why exactly plants even have all of this really, really high amount of polyunsaturated fat in the first place. Well, it actually has to do with the fact that plants have something called the Rubisco enzyme, and this Rubisco enzyme is so inefficient. I mean, this guy literally is not even just a slacker. He is really bad at his job. He's just like a newbie at his job all the time. It's really bad. And yeah, so if you want him working, at which he will create tons of this reactive oxygen species, which by the way are basically like dragging your immune system to throw raves. By the way, you don't want your immune system throwing raves because that's not healthy. Then yes, this Rubisco enzyme really, really helps with that. Now, he also does something else though. He actually kind of makes a plant kill itself at such a rapid rate that the plant looks at itself and it goes, uh-oh, I need to protect myself from killing myself. Yeah, he's actually killing the plant. So how exactly does the plant do that? Well, the plant has to produce tons of this vitamin E. And basically, what exactly is vitamin E and why do plants have so much vitamin E? Not only that, why do plants have so much vitamin C? Yes, that's right. It's to protect against itself from killing itself because it's generating so much reactive oxygen species from the Rubisco enzyme, which once again, that's not healthy and you don't want to be doing that. And that's a really big deal because lo and behold, you got some very big problems on your hands and now tons of this vitamin E is being created in order to prevent, yes, the thing that we're coming up to next, lipid peroxidation. Now, vitamin E actually just acts as an antioxidant against lipid peroxidation. And if you don't know what lipid peroxidation is, then I recommend you check out my Science Behind Carnivore playlist. But just to keep it really, really short, it's pretty much sort of not really like an immune system rave. It's more so like a angry mob rave. It's They're very reactive. They're very, very reactive. So yeah, there you go. You could just think of it as an angry mob. Now, just to mention some of the key takeaways of this video. 1, all plants contain phytotoxins as defense compounds. 2, phytotoxins can trigger various inflammation responses throughout the body. 3, inflammation can result from a regular consumption of plant food. Yes, that's right, a regular consumption. Now, even if you say, well, I'm consuming plants all the time and I'm not getting any of these responses, no, you are. You're just getting them at a very, very small and not necessarily super noticeable amount, but you still are getting them. Some people have them in extreme amounts because of some genetic predisposition, and some of them have it in much less amounts. However, they both still have the same problem, and they're both still causing damage. One of them is just a giant rave of like millions of immune cells, and the other one is basically like 2 or 3. It's still not too healthy, and you don't want these ravers. They're not healthy. Okay, just avoid the ravers. 4, understanding phytotoxins is really crucial in order to recognizing potential negative impacts of the basically plant-based diets, which I have covered in my channel many, many times. Yes, this is very, very damaging, and I would highly advise against it because you are bound to cause yourself many, many problems. It could be being anemic, or a whole myriad of other problems like vitamin and mineral deficiencies, becoming emaciated and losing muscle mass, losing curvature, becoming very angry because of a lack of cholesterol and allopregnanolone. The list is endless. And number 5, eliminating plants can actually reduce your inflammatory markers. So if you remove plants from your diet, you will reduce the inflammatory markers that you are giving yourself, which also does slow down the process of aging. So the next time that you see a detox, remember to tell them that it actually is quite literally a paradox. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video helpful and informative. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below because it really does help the channel grow. And if you're interested in seeing all my videos ahead of time, click the join button down below. So once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Pew.